Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to welcome you here today to Asialink's Singapore Roadshow, and I would now like to introduce His Excellency Mr. Phillip Green, Australia's High Commissioner to Singapore.
The first point I want to make is that while there is not a little noise in the media about the Asian growth story, we are here to tell you that from our perspective, the Asian growth story is well and truly alive. It is true that there are headwinds. China's growth is a little, I stress a little off. It is true that there are challenges in structural development and productivity in Asia. It is true that there are governance issues around Southeast Asia and beyond. But we shouldn't be distracted from the key facts here. Key facts are that the growth of emerging Asia remains double the growth globally. We shouldn't be distracted from the fact that 2/3 of all global growth is occurring still in the Asia-Pacific basin. The one thing that stands out for me is the growth in the size of the middle class. The middle class in Asia, currently 500, 600 million people. That is projected to grow within 20 years to over 3 billion people. Our view is that it's particularly consequential for Australia. It's consequential firstly because it happens at a time when, as we know, other drivers of growth are not going to be as powerful in the next 5 years as they have been in the past. It comes to us hard up against our continent. This Asian growth story is right next to us, extremely proximate. And I think most underestimated of all, the Asian growth story is happening next to us where our economy is highly complementary to that in Asia. Many of the sorts of things that this growing middle class in Asia will want to consume are the very sorts of things that we are best at doing. This growing middle class is going to want all of the sorts of services that we take for granted. High quality education, high quality health, high quality tourism. We think a vital partner for taking advantage of that Asian growth story that I spoke about before. Prime Minister Abbott has reached out to his Singaporean counterpart and said that he wanted to have a new sort of partnership with Singapore. A partnership of two nations in Asia which are at about the same level of development, which have very largely the same strategic outlook, which have the same sort of business culture, and which have complementary economies in many fields where we can take advantage of each other. They have signed something that, slightly ugly term, comprehensive strategic partnership. What does that mean? It means that we have alighted on Singapore as a very key partner, not just in Asia but globally.
In the late 80s and early 90s, there was a terrible recession in Australia, and that actually encouraged a lot of business to venture offshore. They needed to go looking for new markets, and it was a pretty prosperous time in what was a fairly undeveloped region, being Asia, going on. And unfortunately, it came to a grinding halt with the Asian economic crisis in 1997, 1998. Now, potentially a lot of the people that were involved through that boom bust are now running business in Australia and have been indelibly scarred by that process. But I think, and what I'd encourage those business leaders to look at is the growth that has happened exponentially and the maturing of that Asian market, that what they looked at back in the 1990s is very different to what we now look at in 2015.
That there is no such thing as an export market. There are simply domestic markets in which you are trading.
Thank you very much, John.